What is going on YouTube? And welcome back to my channel, JoJo Speaks. Thank you all for joining myself and Dustin for our review for 90 Day Fiance. Before the 90 days, this is season 8, episode 14. Every time I eat right before I get on camera, the burping always comes up. I'm so sorry about that. But anyways, make sure you
What
guys
you have,
subscribe.
G? What G?
I had some lemon pepper sprinkled wings from American Deli as well. I shouldn't be promoting any restaurants on my channel, but I had some lemon pepper wings. I had 3 of them, and I had some hush puppies uh, from um, from another restaurant whom I will not disclose. But yeah, and then my mom just made some spaghetti, so I'll be having spaghetti right after this review is done recording. But anyways, before we get started, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Press that big white subscribe button. It is free and easy to do. It takes less than a second to mash that thing. So why don't you go ahead and
Yeah,
mash
the
it for a
part
brother?
is you.
Also, be sure to leave a like for this video, a thumbs up. Let me know you're enjoying the content I'm putting out on my channel. Be sure to leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on the various couples that we're discussing on this particular review. Also, be sure to press the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And last but not least, be sure to share JoJo Speaks with all your family, friends, and loved ones. Let everybody know JoJo Speaks is out here in these YouTubing streets. So we got some comments in here. I had a bunch of comments as soon as I got in here. So Aaron is here saying hi to everyone. Hello, Aaron, my love. I'm so glad that you've joined us for this review, boo. Hope
Yes.
you are doing well. Aaron also says to subscribe to Prophetic Fire Reiki. She also says subscribe to Unveiled Vibrations. And then Aaron also says, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for that, Aaron. And Lady Virgo's in the building. Good evening, Lady Virgo. So happy that you're here. Lady Virgo says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, Lady Virgo. So glad that you decided to join us, my love. And
Yeah.
then Aaron says hello to Lady Virgo. And then Lady Virgo says hello to Smiling with Aaron D, JoJo Speaks, Dustin Butler, and Auntie Robin. She says, hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to you, Lady Virgo, as well. We love you, girl. And then we see Auntie Robin is in the building.
Yes. Hello, Auntie Robin. Thank you for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Auntie Robin says, good evening. Good evening to you, Auntie Robin. Thank you so much for being here. And then she says, hey to Smiling with Aaron D. And then she says hello to Lady Virgo.
Yeah.
Let me see here. And then Auntie Robin's got one last comment, and then we'll get to the show. And she says hi to you and I, Dustin. She says hi to Dustin and Joe Nathan. Thank y'all so much
Oh,
for being in the comments. Let's get into this review. So,
yes.
oh Lord, I haven't even decided which couple I want to start with. I think I'm going to start with Forrest and Sheena.
Uh-huh.
Forrest and Sheena are dealing with the aftermath of informing Forrest's mother that he has proposed to Sheena, and they're going out for a consult with a lawyer concerning with an immigration lawyer concerning the possibility of taking Sheena over to America for them to live. And Forrest lets the immigration lawyer know that he currently does not have a job. He's currently on disability, and he gets just enough money to be able to take care of himself every month. And then the immigration lawyer informs Forrest that disability is not considered income when it comes to the visa process. And he does mention that it might be better for Forrest to move to the Philippines. I believe he mentions that as well.
Right.
But and then Forrest was saying, okay, so what is a good timeline? Let's say that I do get a job, a full-time job. How long would it take for me to be able to get Sheena over to America? And he said, well, you have to have a full-time job for a minimum of a year. And then it takes another year for that person to be able to save up enough money to be able to apply for a visa. So, you know, the earliest that Sheena will be able to get over to America is within 2 years, and that's considering Forrest actually get a job. And Forrest says that he's a little bit nervous about getting a full-time job because of his autism. He's not able to understand things the same way that those who without autism do, and it's a whole thing. So Forrest and Sheena, they go
Mhm.
in and start talking, and Sheena's like, well, maybe we should really consider, you just moving over to the Philippines. I'll be able to take care of you and all this good stuff. And Forrest is like, I get that, I understand that, but I don't know if I'm ready to leave my family, which I completely understand both sides to that. I understand that Sheena's like, I've been waiting 7 years. You know what I'm saying? I've been so patient, and I just want us to be together. Sheena does do just both Sheena and Forrest. They want to be together. They want to live together, and it's kind of sad that they there's not an easier way for them to just cohabitate within the same country. But that's just the way that things go here in the world. And so Sheena says, you should really consider, just moving over to the Philippines. Now, I do remember a preview. I believe it was the first episode. They showed a preview of the rest of the season. And I saw a video of Forrest telling his mother that he was going to stay in the Philippines. So I do believe that Forrest does decide to stay in the Philippines with Sheena. I'm not sure if there's a complete timeline on that, but I do believe that he does end up, don't quote me on it, but I do believe that he does end up staying in the Philippines. But I get why Forrest is saying that he does not want to leave his family because, he's been, I don't want to say dependent on his family, but emotionally dependent on his family. And, he loves to have their support right there with him. And, I'm not surprised that he does not want to separate himself from his family. So, Dustin, what are your thoughts on Sheena and Forrest's situation? Do you think the Forrest should move to the Philippines? Do you think he should actually get a job and get into the process of getting Sheena over to America? What are your thoughts?
Get a job and get the process over to America. That'd be the quickest and easiest way, in my opinion.
Quickest and easiest way. Why do you say that as opposed to him moving to the Philippines?
Because I think that the Philippines, I think it's more difficult to live in the Philippines as a whole. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, me personally, I'm not sure how I would come to a conclusion with this type of situation, because they are both stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Because his family's in America, so that's what I was trying to,
Okay, yeah,
say.
I completely understand that because he doesn't want to be separated from his family, and that's completely valid.
Right.
Living in a different country is one thing, living in a different state, but living in a different country that is not easily accessible, it's going to make it hard, and that's going to be a very, very, very blunt change in his life, and I don't think that he's ready for that at all in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not sure how they'll be able to move forward. As I said before, I feel like I saw Forrest telling his mother he was going to stay in the Philippines. I'm not exactly sure, if I'm right on that, but I do believe I remember seeing
He
that
did.
in a
He did.
preview. Right. So
Mhm.
I don't know how that's going to work out for him. I don't know what allowed him to make this decision. I'm just glad that Sheena is not like trying to force him to make a decision that he does not want to make. I'm glad that she's giving him the space to be able to think about the decision he's going to make. Auntie Robin says down in the comments, except that Forrest has a ceiling for the amount of money he can earn before losing his benefits. That is very true, Auntie Robin. I, for one, am on disability.
So am
And
I.
so, yeah, right. And so, if you do get a job, they have a program here in Columbia, South Carolina called the Ticket to Work program, where you can make as much money as you want for a total of, I think, 9 months it is. But then after that, your benefits get cut off. You can work part time, and still keep your entire disability check, but you cannot have a full-time job and still get your disability, which is fair to me. You can't be
That's
double
not that.
dipping,
That's not
work.
the what. It's a little bit different in Illinois. You can't have a job period. So that's my Mhm. Illinois. You can't have a job period. Mm.
Wow, wow, yeah. Thankfully, in South Carolina, we can, have a part-time job, which is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for part-time work, so
Mm.
that, yeah. So I get that. I completely understand. I feel as though Forrest might be choosing to stay in the Philippines because it's a faster approach of being able to be with Sheena in the same country. It just seems easier, at least to me. It would sound easier as opposed to waiting 2 years to be able to not only find a job, because who knows how long it's going to take him to find a job, but to keep that same job for at least a year and then wait another year to accumulate the amount of money it would take to be able to afford the visa. So
Mhm.
they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I'm not sure if they will be, they probably wouldn't be able to ask Forrest's parents for money because they're basing their decision, the visa decision, off of Forrest's income. So I don't know. I would say that I feel kind of bad for them, but I really don't feel that attached to Forrest and Sheena. So it is what it is. Hopefully they'll be able to
Mhm.
work it out, but we'll see what happens in the upcoming episodes to see how they'll be able to figure those things out for themselves. Hopefully
Mhm.
they can try to find a happy medium, but really in this case there won't be a happy medium because either they're going to have to wait 2 years for Sheena to be able to come over to America, or Forrest is going to have to separate himself from his family to move into the Philippines. So
Mhm.
there are going to be casualties on both sides, no matter what happens. So we'll see where
Mhm.
they go from here. So let's move on to Joshua and Elsie. I'm not. Why did I call her Elsie? That's what I was calling her during the hunt for love. Elise, Joshua, and Elise. And so,
Oh God, I
um,
don't even know where to begin.
wow,
I don't.
Dustin.
I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to begin. I can't. I don't. I don't like her. I don't like her point blank.
Why? Why
I
don't you
don't like
like
her.
Elise?
She does put them. She puts me in mind of somebody that I don't. I don't like her. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay. So you've
Mm-mm.
known someone in your personal life that was a lot like Elise, and that's why
Yeah.
you don't care
Yeah.
for. Okay,
Yeah.
I can get that because me personally, I really do like Elise a lot. I think she's got a great personality. I think she's perfect for the show. She knows exactly what to say during the confessionals. You know what I'm saying? When she said, when they were sharing a shower together, she said, I like to save water. I'm an e. Whatever word she used, I can't remember what word she used. Those people who like to save water, whatever the case might be. I thought that was really clever for her to say. But anyway, so Joshua and Elise, they go off to the beach and she changes right there on the beach with Joshua
Mm.
covering her up with a towel. Elise clearly has no issue with nudity, which and
Mhm.
there's no problem with that whatsoever. Is if that's your thing, then that is your thing. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, Joshua is good and she says Joshua is good and shady. Elise is a bit trashy to me. I will admit that I have to agree with you just a little bit, Auntie Robin, on Elise being a little bit trashy. She's not the most. Um, how should I put this nicely? She's not the most
I think
mature,
Justice is
I
better to be
guess.
honest. Mhm.
Yeah, to me, they make a great couple because they're on the same wavelength as far as their
Mhm.
maturity levels are concerned. They're
Mhm.
both still younger. Well, I mean, Joshua is a little bit older. He's I think 39 if I'm not mistaken. Um, and so it is what it is. Elisa still wants to have fun. She still wants to do her thing or whatever the case might be. But let's see, Joshua is 39. Yeah, Joshua's 39. Elise is 32. So
32.
they're pretty much
Mhm.
on the same wavelength um
Age.
as far as age is concerned. But Elise is not the most well put together in a way. She's,
Mhm.
as I said, she's not the most mature 32-year-old in the world. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, she ain't buttoned up. That's for sure. That is for sure as well. She's really not buttoned up. She's a little, I don't want to say loose, but she's carefree, you know what I'm saying? And she's not trying to, doesn't seem like she's trying to settle down, although she told us in previous episodes that she really wants to settle down with Joshua. But anyways, we're getting beyond that point. So they go to
Yeah.
the beach, they have a great time at the beach. They come back from the beach, they take a shower together because they got all that sand in their cracks and crevices and things of that nature. And then Joshua wants to give her a massage. I love the way Europeans and Australians say massage. She wants to give her a massage with oils and things of that nature. He removes her, not totally removes her bra, but he unsnaps her bra. And then Chris walks in mid massage. And all of a sudden, Elise is so embarrassed. I'm not sure why she was embarrassed. And Joshua was a little confused about that as well, because he said, you're not one to be shy about being naked in front of people. So, it is what it is. But anyways, and so then later on, we Elise does say that she promised herself, well, maybe not promised herself, but she had decided that she was going to wait before having sex with Joshua. I don't know if she put a particular timeline on that whatsoever, but
She said two.
her
She said 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, they didn't make it to a full 6 months. I don't know how long Elise has been in Australia. I'm thinking maybe 3 or 4 days, not even a full week, that she's been in Australia, and they ended up having sex. And she said that she,
I knew that wasn't gonna last long. I knew that
I,
wasn't gonna last long anyway. That's too long in my opinion.
yeah, and they're two consenting adults, and they make the decision to do it. And so they're well in their right to do just that. So that
Hey,
that's
Aaron.
that's up to them. Aaron says hello to Auntie Robin. And I don't think Aaron has watched this season, but if you are watching, Aaron, please
Yeah.
let us know. But anyways, and so they ended up having sex, and she said that they had sex twice, and it was really an amazing experience, except for the fact that Joshua is uncircumcised. Now, I don't want to get too much into that. I understand why people are turned off by uncircumcised penises. Me personally, I have no issue with it whatsoever. But I get why it creeps some people out because it doesn't look normal to most Americans, but most Europeans, or if I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe that a lot of the Europeans aren't even circumcised themselves. So it is what it is. But anyways, and so Elise goes on to meet Joshua's friends at a bar, and and before they get to the bar, Joshua, right at the day after that they have sex, Joshua reveals to Elise that he is actually living with one of his good friends. Now, Elise does know who this good friend is. She said that she's talked to this good friend of Joshua's, and but Elise is a little bit put off by this, and I find it very interesting that Joshua waited until after they had sex for the first time to reveal this information to her, that he was actually living with one of his friends. So I found that to be very interesting. We got somebody new in the building. Joseph Jarrell. Joseph Jarrell says, "I turned I turned back to this YouTube channel, and who do I see? Jojo and Dustin. Yeah, baby. Thank you so much for being here, Joseph. So glad that you decided to join us, sir. Let's see
Thank you,
here.
Joseph. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. So glad to have you here with us. And then Joseph has another comment here. Joseph also says, "Greetings from LA." Oh, you're in Los Angeles. Okay, all righty. I'm sure the weather is beautiful in LA. Absolutely gorgeous in LA. So, anyways, and so Elise goes on to meet uh, Elise goes on to meet Joshua's friends and whatnot. And Elise is a little turned off by the fact that Joshua is living with his friend. Joseph Jarrell also says, Aaron D in the place to be. And so, Elise is a little bit turned off because she doesn't know why Joshua had waited so long to tell her that he was living with his friend. And she says she thinks that, she asked him, well, does she see you naked walking around the house? You know what I'm saying? Are you sharing a bathroom? He says that they do share a bathroom, but she doesn't see him naked walking around the house. So me personally, I choose to believe that Joshua doesn't have any sexual attraction or have any interest sexually with his friend. I choose to believe that for sure. I don't know if it's naive of me to believe that, but I choose to believe Joshua in that moment. And then when we meet this friend later on that he is living with, she tells the camera that she looks at Joshua as a brother and not as a sexual object or anything of that nature. She looks at him as a brother, and she would never want to take it to that level with Joshua. So
Yeah.
but Elise does give her concerns about him living with her, and she says, she's tried to have friendly relationships with straight men, and they never work out. And Joshua's friends are like, well, maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it's different here in Australia because Joshua and I have a great relationship, and it doesn't have to involve sex. And so I understand Elise's jealousy a little bit because it is jealousy at the end of the day. But I don't think she has anything to worry about as far as Joshua is concerned with this friend. Now, I'd personally be more worried about Joshua and Chris having something going on. But hey, that's just me, and maybe that's just my wishful thinking. I don't know. It could be a little bit of both. But anyways, let's see. Lady Virgo says down here in the comments, Joseph Jarrell, hey, Joseph, how have you been? And so, Dustin, what do you think of the way that Elise reacted to Joshua telling Elise that he was living with his friend? And do you think that she had the right to sort of kind of question his friend as to, you guys don't have anything going on sexually? Do you think that she was right to feel the way that she felt about him revealing that information to her?
I think that she should have told him to begin with. Or
He
he
should
should
have
have
told
told.
her to begin with.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, that was my mistake.
It's okay. It's totally
My
fine.
mistake. Yeah, but I think I think that should have been said to begin with before you even got with her. So you know, that's kind of his fault to begin with, in my opinion. He should have said something. He's one that just did it. So just move forward. Just move forward. He didn't. He wants to be with her, so he's gonna have to figure out how to handle it. Cause I don't know how to handle it. So that's with me. Mm.
Yeah. Joseph says down in the comments, "Hey, Lady V. Hey, Lady V." I love that y'all so cordial down there in the comments, y'all. Yeah, I understand why Elise feels the way that she does. She has every right to feel that way, and especially telling Elise right before she's going to meet this friend that he's living with, like that would pull up a red flag for me. Now I get why Joshua didn't want to reveal this information to her, but he would have to tell her eventually because she was going to find out one way or another. So it is what it is. Joshua should have told her earlier, and he could have been able to mitigate her reaction to it. Maybe if he had told her before she came to Australia, but it was his decision, and that's the decision that he made. So
Yeah.
there is that. So let's move on to our next couple. We're already 21 minutes into these reviews. I never understand how these reviews get out to like 45 minutes long, but it is what it is. I'm
Yeah.
not complaining, but I'm just surprised. But I think it's mainly because we have so many couples that we have to talk about. So let's move on to Jovan and Annalyn. So Jovan and Annalyn didn't have much going on this particular episode, but I did like the little bit of growth that we saw from Annalyn in this episode. So we're dealing with the aftermath of her leaving the salon, telling Jovan to never come back home ever again. Which she was being a little bit dramatic, and I understand. Annalyn is a little bit of a dramatic type personality type, so I completely understand that. But Annalyn is extremely emotional. She feels like Jovan is trying to yield some power over her. She's acting as if Jovan is being controlling over her, or Jovan is talking to her like a father would talk to his child. And I personally don't see it that way. And I also find it extremely rich that Annalyn has issues with Jovan talking to her the way he does when Annalyn in return talks the same way to Jovan. And so when Jovan talks to her the way that he does, he's doing it in response to the way that Annalyn is talking to him. And so they're talking to each other the same exact way at the same time. And so when they're talking to each other in that volatile type way, maybe not necessarily volatile, but a negative sort of type way, then you're not really going to get anywhere. But a little bit later on the next day, Annalyn says that, um, she sort of kind of understands where Jovan is coming from. Of course, when she said that, if Jovan wanted to marry a docile, soft-spoken woman, then he should not have married her, and he doesn't have to be an asshole, and all this good stuff. But I think Annalyn sort of kind of sees where Jovan is coming from, and she did apologize for the way that she had spoken to him, and I'm so glad that she did. Now, I don't know if this means that we're going to see a change in Annalyn, because I'm definitely not expecting to see
I don't see
Annalyn
one.
change
Oh,
in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Because when you're dealing with grown ass people, a lot of times grown ass people are set in their ways. Now, it is possible for grown people to change if they see that it will do good for them in their lives. Auntie Robin says down in the comments, that wasn't growth, that was fear. Javon finally spoke up, and she's worried about that money. Oh yeah, she's worried about that money train. Exactly. Yeah, I was just being nice by saying there was a little bit of growth, Auntie Robin. But Auntie Robin called me right on out. I appreciate that, Auntie Robin, always keeping me on point. But
mm,
yeah, Sheena does apologize to him. I don't know how to take that apology. I'm at least glad that she attempted to apologize. But once again, I don't expect to see any change in Annalyn whatsoever. it just wouldn't make sense for me because I think Anna Lynn likes to run things. I think Anna Lynn likes to be in control a whole lot, and that's the exact way that she talks to Javon. Auntie Robin also says Javon was standing was let's see. Oh, straddling. I'm sorry. That word was big enough for me. I'm sorry, Auntie Robin. Javon was straddling the fence on being more assertive with her. I think that he is not over the relative luxury that she's living in on his dime. I can agree with that as well. I would feel the same way that Javon is feeling because Anna Lynn, she's living it up. She's taking trips right and left, and she's just doing her thing. But Dustin, were you surprised that Anna Lynn actually apologized to Javon? And do you expect to see any change in Anna Lynn going forward?
No, I do not. But I'm surprised she even said anything to him.
Yeah, I do too. And then also, Annalyn reveals that whenever it is that she and Jovan make up, it makes her hot for him, makes her want to have relations with him. So I guess
Hmm.
that's a sweet thing, if anything. So we'll see what happens
In the
as
next
time
episode,
goes on
yeah, in the next episode.
in the next episode for sure. So let's move on to Lisa and Daniel. So
Yeah.
Lisa and Daniel are dealing with the aftermath of her revealing to him that she's getting divorced from a woman. She says that I don't think she specifically says that she's been married to three women, but she does say that she has not had sexual relations with a man in like 19 or 20 years. And so I think Daniel was able to connect the dots to say that, okay, so that must mean that Lisa was dealing with women for the time that she was not dealing with men, which I'm so glad that he was able to pick up on. So they're going back and forth, and Daniel calls her evil, if I'm not mistaken. He uses a very big word
Evil.
for,
Yeah, evil.
yeah, Daniel calls her evil. And I was interested in understanding. Thankfully, Lisa asked him a little bit later on in the episode, what did he mean by calling her evil? And he said it's due to the lies. I was hoping that he wasn't calling her evil because of her lesbian ways or her same-sex attractive ways. So I'm so glad that he didn't feel that way. But he's very adamant that his culture and his traditions are completely against same-sex relations. And it's weird for me as a gay man speaking on this particular subject because
Me as well.
it's one thing to deal with homophobia in America, but when you're dealing with, I don't know if I even want to call it homophobia from Daniel's heritage and his traditions. For some reason I see it a little bit differently, and I don't see Daniel as bad. And maybe I should, and maybe, but I don't know if they have access to books or access to entertainment or access to TV shows and movies that
I
put a
don't think they do.
spotlight.
I don't think they do. I don't think they have access to all that in the they do over here like we do over here.
Now there are African gay love stories that are on YouTube that are all over YouTube, but it's still, it's still a very homophobic type of setting. And I don't want to feel, I don't want to think that Daniel has anything personally against those in the LGBTQIA plus community. I just think that he is sticking to his traditions and his culture. And I get that. I really do get that. And because he's not in the LGBTQIA plus community himself, he just doesn't understand our plight. He doesn't understand what we go through on a daily basis. So I get that. But, it does seem like Daniel is not reacting to this very well. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, Daniel is playing Lisa so hard that he has seemingly mastered every section in the orchestra. Wow. Percussion, wind, brass. Wow. Okay, Auntie Robin. I like that. And then Auntie Robin has another comment down here, and she also says, I could not help to believe that Lisa's tears were such that she can give lessons to Robin Brown. Wow, to Robin Brown from Sister Wives. Yeah, I don't believe Lisa's tears whatsoever. They seem very fake to me. Even though her eyes do get her face gets a little bit red when she starts to cry. I hardly ever see any tears coming out of her face when she does end up crying. But who knows? It could be authentic. I'm not sure whatsoever. Auntie Robin also says down in their comments, Daniel would be fine with Lisa's past if it didn't interfere with his plans for his future as a green card holder. Exactly, which I'm still thinking, Auntie Robin and everyone else that's watching, that Daniel has intentions on getting over to America to live in America for a better life. I don't know that he's it's not that I don't want to refuse to believe that he could be romantically attracted to Lisa. It's just hard for me to believe that he's romantically attracted to Lisa. I mean, the first time that they had sex, he couldn't finish. So a lot of
I
times
don't
that says
think.
a whole lot about your attraction to someone else. But Dustin, what are your thoughts on Daniel and Lisa this episode?
I don't think it's gonna work out. Mm. And I hope it doesn't because I think it's better for them to break it off. To be honest,
Yeah. Were you surprised at how upset Daniel was at Lisa for continually keeping things from him and doing what he says is lying to him?
I was surprised to see it happen that way. But honestly, nothing really surprises me with these couples on this season.
Yeah, I was the main thing that sort of kind of got me was Daniel's facial expressions. Like you could truly tell that he was extremely surprised by all these things that Lisa's revealing to him, and taken aback by all of this. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, Daniel probably has a few backup white American women to help him get to the U.S. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, Auntie Robin. I would not be surprised if he did. And maybe if I had more care for Lisa and Daniel, I might care more as to for the fact as to whether they would stay together or not. But to be honest, I really don't care as to whether they stay together or not. I just don't care. And for Lisa to be having all these reactions to him and her saying he's not going to accept me for who I am. Well, if you had told him who you were, if you had told him about your attraction to women in the beginning, then we would not be dealing about with this right now because he would not have gotten with you in the first place. So Lisa literally put herself into this situation. She literally created this atmosphere of dishonesty with Daniel. And to me, when you don't tell someone a big truth about yourself and them not asking you, it to me that is still a lie. To me, it is still a lie because that is a huge thing. Now, Daniel continuously says that he needs to talk to his uncle before they can move forward with their relationship. And we saw in the preview that Lisa is going to have some heart palpitations, a little bit of heart of difficulty breathing and all this good stuff. And so apparently Lisa's going to put on a show for everybody when they go to meet his uncle in the next episode. So and it
Mhm.
looks like Daniel wasn't even consoling her, trying to comfort her, or anything of that nature. And I think that's because he knows, or he's probably assuming that it's just an act that Lisa is putting on. Because I've never believed Lisa's tears at all on this season of the 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. Um, uh, let's see. Auntie Robin says down in the comments, a life of omission. Exactly. Like when you're like deliberately omitting important information about your personal life. And then when it starts to backfire on you, you cannot be surprised by the results. Like you cannot be surprised when your partner is going to be upset with you when they find out something that you didn't tell them to begin with. Lady Virgo is laughing at Auntie Robin. So, you know, I it, what Daniel does will depend on how much he wants to get to America and how much he wants to do it with Lisa. Because I feel as though Daniel is telling Lisa that his uncle has to be involved. So his uncle is able to make the decision as to whether they stay together, as opposed to Daniel making the decision as to whether they stay together or not. That's what I'm thinking. But, I
Mhm.
could be wrong about that. Who knows? But let's move on to our last couple from this episode, which is Trisha and Rick. And just as I had assumed before, just as I had thought was going to happen before, uh, you know, uh, uh, Jo- uh, um, Rick gets over to her home city, and seems to be impoverished. It seems as though Trisha says they don't have any running water. She says that things are a little bit dilapidated. Things are not looking so Americanized in the city where she lives, and so Rick meets what seems like all of Trisha's family. Trisha has a huge family. He meets Trisha's aunt. He meets her sisters, her brother. He meets her father. I don't remember her mother being there. I can't remember if her mother was there,
She
but she
wasn't there.
right, but he does meet her aunt. He and when he told her aunt that she looks like his grandmother, I thought that was shade initially, but when I got a closer look at her face, she does look like she's an older person. So I don't have any issue with Rick saying that her aunt looks like his grandmother. But anyway, so getting down to the nitty gritty, Trisha is saying that Rick is acting a little bougie, which he is. I mean, Rick is not used to being outside of America. So when he goes to these places these places that do not look like what America looks like, then it comes as a shock to him. And there's a little bit of complaining here and there, which I understand, but you're on TV. You don't want to make yourself look like a bougie bitch. Like you don't want to do that. But apparently Rick doesn't care. So, anyways, we get to this dinner. Rick is having trouble sitting down. They're all sitting on the floor. And Rick seems like he's a tall man. And he's got a little bit of weight on him. He's a little bit of muscular. He's a little thick, you know what I'm saying? And so he starts sitting like Trisha's aunt. And she's like, you don't sit like that. So I'm assuming that women sit one way and men sit another way. It would have been nice for Trisha to fill him in on that. Maybe she felt like she didn't have to, but I don't know. But during this entire conversation over dinner concerning Rick and Trisha's relationship, with Trisha's father asking all of the questions, it's my opinion that Trisha left Rick out to dry. She did not defend him in any way, shape, or form. She did not offer any of her side of things during this conversation whatsoever. The only thing that Trisha was doing was translating. That is it. And the facial expressions during this entire conversation is Trisha is on her family side, and she's let's see here. Trisha is on her family side, and she wants what her family wants, and her family wants her to have children, and Trisha literally wants to have kids. And so Rick has asked how old he is, if he's ever been married, and how many children he has. And thankfully Rick is truthful about all of the answers to these questions, which I'm so happy about, because I wasn't sure if he was going to possibly tell a little white lie, or maybe downplay a couple of things. I'm not sure, but Rick answers all the questions honestly. When asked about having children, he says that we've discussed it, but he hasn't made a decision just yet. And the family asks, well, when will you make the decision? And he says, before we get married, we'll make the decision. We all of us who have been watching this season of 90 Day Fiance before the 90 Days, season 8, we know full well that Rick has no interest in having any more children with anyone. It's not that he doesn't want to have children with Trisha. He just doesn't want to have any more kids, period. He's already got 5, 3 who are grown and 2 who are of younger age. And so Rick doesn't want to have to go through that again. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, we know Rick don't want no more kids. Did y'all see the last season of Love is Blind? Woman said she didn't want kids, but at the altar said she could see having kids with the man. He said no. Wow. Yeah, I personally don't watch Love is Blind, Auntie Robin.
I don't either.
For me, the concept of Love is Blind, people being forced to try to fall in love without actually seeing one another, to me is not realistic to me. Just for me, it's not realistic. My mother watches it all of the time. She even tried to get me to watch. I've watched actually one season, or at least half a season, with my mom. But me personally, I really don't watch dating shows. Now, the one dating show that I do love is The Boyfriend on Netflix. It's a gay dating show on Netflix that is filmed in Japan. It is so sweet. And I absolutely loved the second season. Like, I'm still watching reruns of that season. Like, The Boyfriend on Netflix, please watch that. That is a great show. And those people on that show are literally there to look to find love. They're literally there to find love. And I don't know if the intentions of the people on of everyone on Love is Blind is to find love or if it's just to be on TV. Like, for me, the authenticity means a lot. And if they're not being authentic with themselves and with the viewers, then me personally, it's gonna kind of hard for me to get into those types of shows. But back to Rick and Trisha. I am glad that Rick was honest with her family. We saw in the preview for the next episode that Trisha's father is telling her, what's the point of being with him if he's not going to give you kids? Because I think her father picked up on the fact that Rick does not want to have kids, because most of the time when you're grown, you know whether you want to have kids or not. And if you're straddling the fence on wanting kids, a lot of times that means it's a no when it comes to wanting kids. Auntie Robin says down in the comments, the latest season was not bad. Okay, I might have to try to get into it, Auntie Robin. I might have to try to get into it because I know a whole lot of people watch that show. It's been on for multiple seasons. But Dustin, what were your thoughts on this episode of Rick and Trisha? Did you expect for Trisha to be more involved with that conversation or doing what she did, which was strictly translating?
I expected it to be there, her more involved, but I don't know how I feel quite yet. I'll have to give you an update next week. I don't know how I feel quite yet. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I, I don't. I don't like so. I don't think it's gonna work out either. So that's just my opinion.
Were you expecting for Rick to be honest with her family concerning the questions that they had for them, or did you think he would maybe skirt the questions or lie to them? What were your expectations on Rick during this conversation?
I didn't think he was gonna answer it, but that just really shocked me to find out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just so glad that he was honest with them. I'm so glad that he was honest with them. But I think Trisha is really in love with Rick. Listen, to me, Rick is an attractive man. Like, I especially for his age, him being 52, and the look on her father's face when he said 52. He said 52, and then when he said 5 kids, he put up his hand, 5 kids. So yeah, that was interesting. But to me, Rick is a very attractive man. Well, maybe not very attractive, but I think he's an attractive man for sure. And for a man of his age, like, Rick is a nice looking guy. So I don't blame Trisha for being so into him, but she has to come to grips with the fact that he does not want any kids. And we'll see what decision she makes when he finally, because I'm sure by the end of the season, he's going to tell her that he does not want any kids. So hopefully she'll be able to make an educated decision as to whether she wants to stay with him after he reveals that to him. And I feel as though she's going to have to cut ties. And to be honest, with the fact that she wants kids so bad and the fact that Rick does not want to give them to her, I think she'd be much happier with someone else. Maybe she should get back with her ex. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with all these couples as the episodes go on. Dustin, before we get out of here, why don't you give the people your social media contacts real quick?
My social media contacts are Dustin Butler 700. My Facebook is Dustin Butler. As always, I want to thank Jonathan and my whole entire team for being here.
You're very welcome, Dustin. You guys can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is JoJo_speaks3020. My Facebook is Jonathan Lee. My email is williamjonathanlee@gmail.com. My Cash App is $JonathanLee07. That's $JonathanLee07. Be on the lookout tomorrow for my review on the finale of Married to Medicine, as well as my review on RuPaul's Drag Race. Those two videos will be going out tomorrow. Also, be sure to join me Thursday night at 8 p.m. for my live Hot Topics and Social Commentary show. I go live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. with my sister Prophetic Fire Reiki, as well as our friend Bianca Edwards. We always have a great time talking about the happenings and goings on in the world. So join us on Thursday night. Auntie Robin says down here in the comments, I don't know. Remember Bilal? He said no to kids, and now they have a baby. Yeah, that is very true. So people can change their minds when it comes to kids. But to me, me personally, I've never changed my mind as far as whether I wanted the kids or not. Now, initially, like before I came out, I did want kids, but that was just to cover up the fact that I was gay. But now that I'm older and wiser, and right now I'm 36, I know for darn sure I don't want no kids whatsoever. So it is what it is. But anyways, thank y'all so much for joining us for this review. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out, you guys. Have a good one.
See you next week.